Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another interview on emotional intelligence with Brent. How are you doing, Brent? Thanks for joining us.
Great, Harri. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We're learning a lot from just talking to you and listening to your wisdom on emotional intelligence and the EI roadmap to achieving that for any kind of teamwork, I guess. I mean, we're both from the construction industry. However, as my quality PMO methodology says, it's people that are working together. It's the relation and the performance of those people from any discipline or any kind of stage of the construction work. So emotional intelligence plays very key role into your performance and the team performance. And we already discussed the good listener part of how to understand each other and first start with ourselves and try to understand and be self-aware of ourselves. So one of the things that we find is that people, they get into these emotional situations where they can't handle it very well, or they say something that they don't mean, or they kind of feel that I wish I could have done it differently or would have said something different.
Right.
So the discussion today is about how can we master our emotions, and how can we avoid being offended so quickly or offend others so quickly.
Right.
We'd like to hear your point on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a stereotype of the industry, the angry guy that throws his hard hat and yells at people. And it's becoming less true, I think, as an industry, but it's still out there. And it's interesting. The first place I start, this mind-body connection thing, is nutrition. I worked with a ton of superintendents, and I've said, I ask them this question every time: what did you eat for breakfast? And every one of them, every single one, probably at this point, hundreds, you know what they've all said? I don't eat breakfast. I get to the job site, I grab a Red Bull, some donuts left from yesterday, and wolf them down, and I'm off, right? Or a cup of coffee or whatever. So I said, okay, here's what's happening. Your blood sugar, when you hit that sugary, caffeine-laden drink or energy drink, you jack everything way up, right? And then about an hour and a half later, they're going to plummet. And you're probably going to be pretty hard to be around. So that's the first thing we start with is eat a good breakfast with some protein, not too many carbs. So you'll keep your blood sugar more like that and not like this throughout your morning.
Yes.
That'll help. That helps a lot. That's a big turning point for a lot. And then it gets down to your emotional profile. When we see lower impulse control and higher assertiveness, that's a frustration, impatience, anger profile. We see it a lot in the industry. A lot of field folks, foremen, superintendents have this. And so we work on things like impulse control. And here's the cool part. We work on empathy, which, guess what? Lowers your assertiveness because they're oppositely correlated. So you create a little more balance in your profile and you feel less angry. But the first place we start is always self-awareness, because that's where everything begins, right? So if your self-awareness is low, you're going to have trouble, because so I tell people all the time, hey, you just got really angry and yelled at that guy. That happened here, but way back over here, you probably started feeling something, right? But if your self-awareness is low and you're kind of checked out and you're on autopilot and you're not really checking in with what's going on internally, it's going to feel like it's just an explosion, but it really happened way back. So if you have great self-awareness, you're going to recognize those symptoms way back in your body, how you're feeling, how you're breathing, and you're going to go, wait a minute, I'm starting to get angry here or impatient with this person. And then it's about managing those emotional states. So maybe taking some deep breaths or do some mindfulness exercises or walk away or listen to some music, or, you know, there's all kind of recovery activities you can do to shift that emotional state. The easiest is deep breathing and going to gratitude will shift you from a more of an agitated, frustrated state to more of a state of compassion. And you can see it in their, when we hook them up to this M wave, which measures heart rate variability, you can watch it in real time shift and change.
I love it. I love it. You know why? Because I was watching this TEDx talk over the weekend, and the person was talking about how your physiology affects how you think and your
Yes.
emotions and how you decide things. And you just mentioned it. I mean, what you eat for breakfast is going to affect your body, your sugar level, and your kind of reactions to different things, whether you have it or not, or these spikes that creates in your kind of energy level. So he was talking about energy level and how high performers have like constant energy level at top performance. They don't spike going up and down. And he was bringing an example of golf players. But as you mentioned, it's a system thinking, is that you have your physiology, you have your emotional and your relation impact, and it's two-way street, or maybe even relation interpersonal with the team and other people. So what do you say about like a team setting or organization setting? What do we have to do in that level?
I think nobody wakes up in the morning saying, how can I piss Harri off today? Like, what can I do? Nobody's deliberately trying to make you angry, right? It's usually just a misunderstanding, a miscommunication, a difference in your worldview. Something's going to trigger that. So I think it's about, in a team setting, understanding that different people will see the world in different ways and see solutions and everything about that project differently. And it's about having some nice, open, honest discussions around that without those triggers. And then if you do get triggered, then manage it in a good way and talk to the person and say, you know what, I flew off the handle there. I'm sorry, and let's go back and so it's about really understanding each other in a more profound way. But here's another element that comes into play here: stress. When you're working stress or in burnout, your thinking brain shuts down, number one. And number two, you leave yourself pretty wide open for an emotional hijack in your brain. So it's about managing your stress levels as well. And again, mindfulness, meditation, breathing, those kind of things can really calm the nervous system so that you're not so reactive. And you can do this as a team. You can learn, teach, remind each other, hey, take some deep breaths, let's take a break here. Let's walk away from this for a minute, so you can help hold each other accountable to that. And then, and like you said, I may be the problem. There's this saying we have for some of the alphas we work with: if you meet a jerk on the way to work, you've met a jerk. If you meet 10 jerks on the way to work, then you're probably the jerk, right?
That's a good rule of thumb.
It's taking a look at yourself and saying, what am I doing to maybe even not cause this turmoil or problem, but how can I be the peacemaker and I manage myself in such a way that it doesn't escalate? And if everybody's working on those lines in a team setting, you're going to have a lot of really good, productive conversations full of good conflict, right? Because you want conflict, you want to disagree, and you want to get to the best answer without relationships suffering.
Exactly. We call them healthy conflicts, and this is great. We learn from those conflicts because we collaborate and we understand each other from different perspectives and find the best solution. So you brought up a good thought in my head, because as a spiritual person, and again, I'm not talking about religious person, as a spiritual person that has read Stephen Covey's 8th Habit and understand the spiritual quotient that you need to have as a manager, to understand that you have a voice, you have something that you want to do in this world, and you feel that you're brought to this world for some reason, and you throw your information, your knowledge, your effort in there, and you shouldn't look the short term. You shouldn't think of, oh, now I have to have the result, and if I don't, then I have to push my way or cause disruption or whatever every time that I see things not going my way. How do you explain this to people, understanding you don't have to kind of be stressed out or worried about every result that you seek, because sometimes it might take longer, or you need to kind of have patience with that.
Right. I think that comes with age naturally, but for the younger people, I think it's about trying to be a little more patient with yourself mostly, but also with others, and allowing things to unfold as they need to unfold. And I like your reference to a spiritual practice. It doesn't have to be a religious practice, but something where you're tapping into something outside of yourself, right? And that has to do not only with some, maybe some higher power or something like that, but also I think it's about being in service to others, and thinking about how can I serve people as that servant leader mindset. And then that's usually what's going to lead to that legacy, right? That long-term thing. Over time, you're going to be seen as the person that's, very calm under pressure, very good with other people, very great with relationships and connections, the person that you want to be on your team, right? And that's where all these young people want to be. They want to be indispensable. And these interpersonal skills and emotional intelligence will certainly make you, at least if you're technically okay, pretty indispensable, because that's what
Yes.
usually is missing, quite
Yes.
frankly, from people getting into leadership positions. Well, boy, he's such a good builder, but he just doesn't have those interpersonal skills to be able to pull this off yet. We're going to have to wait. So get those skills early,
That's
right? That's what
interesting.
I say, because I
Yeah,
wish I
and
would have gotten them earlier myself.
that's what I was thinking when I was young, looking at older people, to say they don't have anything to lose, or they're not at high risk, or they've done their stuff, and that's why they're so relaxed and they're not so aggressive and assertive. And now that I don't feel that old, but I have more experience, say, you know what, when I look back at my life, I say, oh, this place where I was assertive or I was pushing for something, I'm glad that didn't happen, because now I see a better result. Or I'm glad that this situation caused me to change direction, because now I'm in a better place.
Right.
So as you said, I think experience is a good lesson for everybody, to say, look back at your lessons learned, and what did you learn in your life, and how did it turn out? What were the good parts of it? And it goes back to being positive thinkers, meaning that you're optimist and you're thinking positively that things are going to turn better and become better. And as you said, worldview is different. Some people think, oh, everything is going to chaos and going to negative, and they see the world negatively. So, and they think pessimistic. So I love all the different things that you're bringing up, and it brings more kind of thoughts of how we can improve ourselves and our organizations as we discuss emotional intelligence. Hopefully for our next discussion, we're going to talk about caring for others and how we should say no very respectfully and without getting people offended of ourselves. So
boy, that's a good topic, because these younger people, they really are afraid to say no, because they don't want us to be seen as a somebody who's not willing to do the work, and boy, it gets them in trouble.
Yes, exactly. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you, Brent, and it's always a pleasure. And I hope to see you next week when we talk more about emotional intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.